all, all errors are due to prescription pharmaceuticals. Take it away, sir.
All right. Well, let me share my screen here. Where is it?
Should be sort of the bottom, that green
Yeah,
box with it.
I'm looking for the right. I should have put it full screen to begin. Up there. Okay, so can you guys all see that? Oh wait, please pause.
Yeah, it's
You can
not
see
full
it?
screen. Let's see. Not full screen here. I'm running two monitors. Somebody else chime in.
We can see it. We can see it all right.
Oh, you can? Okay, good.
Yeah, we're good.
Because it says here screen sharing is paused, which I don't understand, but that's okay. If you can see it, that's fine. So as Bob says, I'm Dan Romanchik, KB6NU. There you go. So I'll introduce myself a little bit here. As Bob said, I've been a ham a long time, and I've been a CW operator a long time because when I got into it back in 1971, that's what you did. You did Morse code as a novice. And I did upgrade to general pretty quickly, but and I bought an HW101 and built it and got on sideband. But after making a few sideband contacts, I didn't quite get the attraction of it and went back to CW. And I've been working CW pretty much ever since. I have a blog. I sometimes joke it's the #1 rated ham radio blog because when you type ham radio blog into Google, I often come up #1. And that's not so much a reflection on the content, but on the longevity. I've been doing it a long time, and Google likes longevity. And I've done some books. I have a whole bunch of amateur radio license study guides, the No Nonsense series, and this book here, CW Geek's Guide to Having Fun with Morse Code. Now, here's an offer for you all here. The book is actually getting a little bit out of date, so I'm any of you guys can email me. I'll send you the PDF and/or the EPUB version for free if you'll read it and get back with some comments on it. So it's a totally free thing, and I'd be happy to do that for the comments because I do have to come up with a new version of it. So when we're so the title of this is Getting Better at Morse Code. So how do you do that? Well, it seems to me there's two ways to go about it: classes or self-study. And what I found, I think, is that everybody's different. So like I'm a self-studier, right? I mean, I've taken classes. I've done not so much with CW, but classes on different things, and but I'm a self-study kind of person. So when you think about whether you should just study on your own or take classes, that's something to keep in mind is what kind of learner you are. So let's talk about some of the classes that are available. You're all Long Island CW Club members, so you know about all the Long Island CW classes. It's a pretty well-established program, very popular. Obviously, there's, I guess, close to 5,000 members of the Long Island CW Club, which is pretty amazing in such a short time. They offer beginner through advanced level classes, and one thing that's interesting about Long Island CW Club, in my opinion, is they take a pretty laissez-faire attitude toward classes. You drop in any of these classes at any time and take the class. So that's kind of a cool thing, and it must be popular because there's, like I said, there's so many members.
Hey, Dan.
Yep.
The display, our display is stuck on slide number 2. I think you've advanced a couple, so wherever you're paused, that's probably the issue.
Huh. Well, let's try it. Let's try this again.
We're not actually seeing the slide presentation. It was the place where you edit the slides. Now it looks like the whole presentation.
Okay, can you see the Long Island CW Club thing now? Okay, good.
Yeah, you got a full screen now, Dan. Looks good.
All right, great. I don't know why that is, but that's good. One thing about Long Island CW Club, they charge a membership fee, which some of the other ones don't. But like I say, it hasn't seemed to hurt the club's popularity. And I think one reason it's sort of popular is more than just the CW Club, right? I mean, you got all this session. It's about portable operations, and we happen to be talking about CW now, but I've attended one a long time ago, and there was a lot of different topics being discussed. So that was nice. The next one is that I know about is the CW Academy, run by the CW Ops. I'm a member of the CW Ops, and I did some work on their website. Their program is free of charge, and but it's a pretty comprehensive program. They offer beginner through advanced, and their program is designed to take students from no Morse code experience at all the way up to, at one time they were saying 25 words a minute. Now they're saying 20 plus words a minute, and 30 words per minute in contests. It's a much more structured program. You have to sign up for the classes. The classes are 8 weeks long. They're only held certain times. So it's a lot more structured. But again, depending on the type of learner you are, this may be the thing for you. A lot of people love these CW Academy classes. There's a new one here, which some of you may know about, but maybe not. This one is called CW Innovations, and headed by a guy named Glenn, W4YES. And he formerly taught CW Academy and Long Island CW Club courses. His classes are not really for beginners, but for those who want to improve their skills. So he's not going to teach you, that A is da-da and B is da-da-da-da. He wants to take people that are already at a certain beginner level and help them advance in CW expertise. He's really focused on what's called instant character recognition, which, as you probably may or may not know, it's the ability to not have to think about the characters as they're coming in. You hear the sound, the character. That's instant character recognition. His classes are free of charge, but he limits the number of people he can take. That's true of the CW Academy as well. But and everything's taught by volunteers, and they take a really personalized approach to teaching, which is kind of interesting. So this is another option if you're a class kind of person. Of course, there's on the internet, there's lots of different things out there which you can avail yourself to get better. LCWO.net is perhaps one of the longest running ones. It uses the Koch method. It has a whole bunch of different programs that you can use to improve your speed. You can have it send code groups, plain text, just call signs, just words, whatever you think you might want or need, it'll supply it for you. It'll help you practice those things. You can download MP3 files if you wanted to put them on your phone and listen while you're driving somewhere or whatever. He's got a convert text to CW feature, so you could put in long books, and convert it to text and have it send you that text. Plus, there's a forum for user discussion and feedback. So the fellow who's done this, I forget his call sign now. I should have wrote it down. He's been doing this for a long time, and That's a nice way to practice. Another guy, this Kurt Zogelman, AD0WE, calls himself the Morse code ninja. This guy actually is kind of amazing. He's thought more about the process of learning and getting better at Morse code than I think just about anybody has. He's got a set of YouTube videos that, in fact, he's got his website, this Morse code Ninja website, hosts the practice sets for many of the LICW courses. But he's got all kinds of stuff. He's quite a thinker when it comes to Morse code. He's thought about it a lot more than me, actually. And his thing is instant word recognition. So he's taken that instant character recognition and one better, and he thinks we should all be listening for words. There's a free program you can download called Roughs XP. This was a Windows only program in the first place, but it's really aimed at contest operators. This is the program they use like at Dayton for the speed tests. It just spits out a bunch of call signs at you, and it helps you learn how to decode call signs. It's kind of an amusing thing to do. There's also Morse code training devices. There's a lot of them. I've just shown. I'm only showing two here. One is the MFJ Morse code tutor, $120. I have a friend who used it and seemed to like it. It is an MFJ product, depending on how you feel about MFJ products. My joke on MFJ is friends don't let friends buy MFJ, but your mileage may vary. And the Morse is quite popular amongst a lot of people. I know I've met the gentleman who produces it, and he sold quite a few of them. I actually bought one and built it, and I wasn't so impressed myself, but he's sold quite a few of them. One of the things I thought was pretty cool about this is it'll actually send and receive over ISM frequencies. So if you had a friend who lived close by, you could actually use this to practice with a friend over the air, not over ham radio frequencies, but over the air. And it's got a lot of different modes. So these are two training devices which you might think about. I'm just going to look at looking at the chat here for a second. All right, no questions yet.
Well, what I do is sort of a running commentary and put websites up that reference stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, I see that.
And how you want, usually we have people put questions in chat and hold them at the end and have a give and take at the end, or do you mind if people?
Oh no, if anybody's got a question, jump right in. I mean, okay. No, this whole presentation isn't really too long, so anybody got a question, please feel free to jump in.
Okay. Can I jump in about the Morse-Reno real quick here?
Sure, please do.
Because what we were doing, the Morse-Reno's got a lot of features. What I like is a feature called Echo Trainer that'll send you a call sign, words, things like that, and you can load text files on it. And I think I'm blocking his name. A really nice guy sent me the text files for the top POTA hunters, activators, and chasers. So I put that in and send back. So it really, what I'm looking for is sort of an artificial intelligence device, and that's pretty close. The problem with the Morse-Reno is that the paddles are touchy as hell. You really gotta, I don't know if Dan, I've got a stiff old fist at 70, almost 74. You probably got a young man's fist, but it gives me a fit about my stiffness. How about you?
Yeah, I never did get the paddles to work all that well, and I quickly defaulted back to my paddles when I was using it.
Yeah, I use N3ZN, some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe, I'm sure you're going to talk about paddles later, right?
Yeah, a little bit. We'll talk about keys a little bit later.
Okay.
But you know, funny thing about that too, back in the day, I actually had one of those Heathkit paddles that had the built-in capacitive paddles. I don't know if you ever remember those. I forget the model number, but I never got those paddles to work either. And then I in our club we used to have a guy who was a service technician at Heathkit here in the Detroit area, and he says, "Oh yeah," he says, "those paddles never worked right." So I don't feel so bad about that. I still got that keyer, by the way, and you know that keyer had a lot of interesting practice modes. You know, it could send you all kinds of different practice things. So you know, if you ever see one of those at a ham fest, you know, think about buying one of those. I can tell you the model number if any of you are interested in that. So self-study, what I always say is, in my humble opinion, the best self-study is getting on the air. You know, I guess I kind of don't understand why so many people spend so much time, you know, with these practice programs and you know the Morse-Reno or the MFJ thing, when the best practice is to just get on the air. And you know, there are a lot. I mean, I can understand people sort of being, say, a little less confident in their abilities, not wanting to get on the air. But with a lot of these different programs, and one thing I'm missing here is the Straight Key Century Club. With a lot of these programs now, I mean, you don't have to be an expert to get on the air and, you know, make contacts. The SKCC, the POTA exchanges are pretty well set. You know, I mean, so you don't have to be a real expert to just get on the air and make contacts. And that really is the best practice there is getting on the air and making contacts. So really consider that, you know. You know, you don't, this is me at a park. You don't have to go out and be an activator to do POTA. You can be one of the hunters. And you know, you can listen for, I mean, you don't have to be fast at it. You can, if the activator's maybe sending a little too fast for you, you can just sit there and listen for the call until you get it finally. And you know, that, I mean, that's same with contesting, right? You can sit there and listen to the calls for 2, 3, 4, 5 times, whatever it takes, and you know, then jump in when you've copied the call. You know, I'll tell you a funny story about that. So I was off the air for a long time, and in the early 2000s, I decided to get back on the air. And I wasn't very good at Morse code then because my skills were a little bit rusty. And I remember going to a field day, and this was before our club actually got revived again. But I go out to the field day site, and there are 2 guys there, and one was a real speedster. He was pounding away on 40 meters, making lots of contacts. The other guy was actually a friend of mine from the bicycle club, and he says to me, he says, "Oh yeah, the bands have been lousy. You know, we're not making that many contacts." I said, "You know what? We should try some, you know, Morse code." So he says, "You know, I think we have a straight key around here somewhere." So he dug through some boxes and whatever. He came up with a straight key, and we did exactly that. I mean, neither of us, you know, had great CW skills at that point. And, you know, we would sit there and listen to somebody send their call sign 2 or 3 times. And then when we finally agreed on what it was, we jump in and make the contact. And, you know, that's all you have to do. And as you make those contacts, you'll get more confidence in doing that. And then you can take that confidence and then use it to do more. Like for example, in the last couple of weeks, I've worked 2 guys, and I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure, But I think that they had done exactly what I was saying. They were either involved in a contest or done POTA or something, because they were not familiar with the protocol for a rag chew type contact. And so they would, I would call CQ, and that both of them, they just sent their call sign just one time. I mean, that's what you do in POTA, right? And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't if you're operating casually. And so I'd ask them to send it again. And then when we finally made the connection, they weren't aware of the protocol for the first transmission. Usually you send RST, and I say all this in the book. So if you're unsure about that, I have all this in the book. This is what the first transmission should look like. So you say thank you for the call. You send the report, the RST report, and then you either send your location and name, or name and location. I always send my name first and then location. And but you could tell they didn't quite get that part yet, but they had worked up enough confidence from doing POTA or contesting to actually get in and then go for the normal kind of QSOs. So I guess what I'm saying is doing that does help you improve your skills and then your confidence in yourself. So think about that. Really I almost can't stress that enough. I think getting on the air really is the best practice. And that SKCC for sure, and POTA, it's not, we're not operating that fast. I could operate pretty fast, but when I do POTA, I send CQ at 18 words a minute, and somebody comes back to me slower, I gear down and go slower. It's whatever it takes, and the good operators will do that. The good operators will do that. And if somebody doesn't, just blow them up. That's what I do. So with a little bit about keys, I don't know what the group was before us, but they were talking about straight keys. And this is my personal feeling. Okay. So take that for what it's worth. I think straight keys are doing more of a disservice to CW than anything. They're hard to use. They're hard on your arm. You can't send fast with them. And most people, unless they practice an awful lot, have a very poor fist with a straight key. So I always suggest people get paddles. And even if you go slow with a paddle, you'll send better code, right? You just will send better code. In fact, one of the things they were talking about in that last session was using a cootie key, a side swiper. And I only once in the last couple of years have I worked someone who had a decent fist with a cootie key, and that was a couple of days ago. Most times these guys have terrible fists, and you can't tell them that they're not sending well because they don't hear it for some reason. Anyway, that's sort of a rant I have, but I'd get a paddle if I were you. This is just a sample. There's all kinds of different paddles at all different price points. The one I use up for POTA actually is this Kemp TP1, and I haul it out with me. And that's because when I operate POTA, I operate from a picnic table. So I'm not, backpacking, up a steep cliff or, whatever. So take that for what it's worth. But I use this. I call it my beater key, because if you've ever seen these keys, they're really built solidly. And they're relatively inexpensive. Only from DX Engineering, they're $165. And if I drop this key, on the ground or whatever, it's got already chipped the paint a couple of times. I don't really care because it's my beater key, and it just keeps working just fine. The one in the middle is called the ultra portable paddle. I actually used this key when I went on one of the things I did in POTA was I have a friend here in Ann Arbor who's like Mr. POTA. He's in charge of the software development for the POTA group. The call sign is WATAM. And he's in I think the top 5 now in the number of parks worked. He's worked over 1,000 parks, operated from over 1,000 parks. And so he's big on that. Part of POTA is working from as many parks as possible. And so he told me, he says, Dan, I want to do this for you. He says, I want to take you on a rove. And so he has this SUV kind of thing that is all set up for POTA. I mean, he's got an IC 7300 in it. He uses a screwdriver antenna mounted on the front bumper. And, what he does is he rolls into a parking lot, turns on the radio and just starts operating. And he says, I want to show you how I do it. So I says, okay. So he takes me on this road. We worked 10 parks in 6 hours. that was pretty amazing. And I did it with this key here. He has one of these keys, and it was a nice key. You could hold it in one hand and key with the other. And it also has leg strap if you wanted to use it with a leg strap. But this is a nice key. It's kind of expensive. They have a smaller one, or one that's a little less expensive, but it's still $120. So anyway, that's a nice key to use. And then on the right-hand side is like the Chinese version, and it's kind of El Cheapo. These actually look, from the pictures anyway, fairly well made. And I was thinking of getting one, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But you see on the bottom, it has magnets, which you are supposed to stick to your radio, and it's supposed to, yeah, there you go. Do you like that key? Have you used it?
Yeah, I got 4 of these. You can beat the hell out of them. You can throw them in a backpack. And I actually did a review for these guys. This is like a 1.5 pound magnet. Yeah. They wanted me to do a review for Amazon. So I put one on a pizza pan and lifted up a whole pizza pan with it. So the magnets are great, but it's got, with my sort of stuff, I need a strong magnetic return. This has a very strong magnetic resistance. It works real well for me. I've also got, one Begali, the Adventure Mono, which is probably cost about 8 times that, and it works almost as well as the Adventure Mono.
Oh, well, there you go. So maybe I will have to try one.
Yeah, and if you don't, the good thing about Amazon, I don't know the other people, is you send it back and get your money back. You can't really send a Begali back, or Kent. God, it took me 3 years to get a Kent. He went out of business, didn't he?
I don't know. I think DX Engineering is still selling them, aren't they?
Well, they are now. That's where I got it from. But again, with these Putajags, you don't like it, you get your money back. So. Yeah.
And and they're even cheaper on AliExpress if you order them directly from China. So
all right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just to sum up about keys. I mean, everybody can do their own thing, but I think paddles are the way to go. You'll send Morse code better, sooner, and it's easier on your arm. And I just, unless you're a real nostalgia buff, I'd stick with paddles. I get a lot of flack for that, especially in the LICW, right? Because the LICW says, well, you should learn with a straight key to get the quote unquote rhythm of it. I think that's kind of baloney, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, in fact, don't be so shy.
What?
Don't be so shy about your opinions.
One time a guy asked me to do another kind of presentation to I don't know, some other LICW group, and I said, I'm going to say that I think that this bit about straight keys is kind of baloney, and they sort of disinvited me when I said that. So just to sum it up, because I'm really at the end of the presentation here, is that, get on the air and have fun. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Is to have fun. And that's why I titled my book that, because, I think sometimes people tend to overthink, well, everything in life, right? But especially Morse code. I have a friend here who I call the Morse code technician, and he really overthinks everything. He watches these YouTube videos and he says, "Oh yeah, when you send Morse code, your arm should be at such and such an angle," and he's got a little little device to measure the force, which used to operate the key, and he's got all this stuff, but which he uses, but he like doesn't get on the air. I get on the air as much as possible, and that's been the secret for me. That's why I've come from what that story I told about field day back 15, 20 years ago, barely being able to copy at 15 words a minute, to now I can probably do a QSO at 30 words a minute if I wanted, if I could find somebody actually. But it's just getting on the air. I get on the air a lot and I make a lot of contacts. And I have fun doing it. That's the key. So, any questions, any discussion about any of this stuff?
So you can tell that Dan is very shy, and we'll force him out here. I got a bunch of stuff, but I'd like for the group. I'll read. Andrew says, I prefer single lever paddles, but unfortunately there are not as many options for inexpensive but decent single lever paddles. What do you think?
Yeah, so I should have mentioned that. There are two options, single and dual lever, and that's a matter of personal preference. So just try them both and see which one works best for you.
So this one, showing my stuff here. This is actually dual straight key and single lever paddle from Electronics USA. These cost like $29. It's an American company. This is not 3D. My bias, I don't really like 3D stuff. This is old ABS plastic. I've used them for 20 years. Throw them in backpacks and beat the hell out of them. But it's Electronics USA, and $29, $30 for one like that. That works really well even for the shack. So
yeah,
Tom
there's lots of good options. For people who keep saying Morse code is dying, there's like dozens of people selling keys. So
yeah, Magali is there. You look at their website, fine. And then I mentioned, damn, I'm blocking on his name. Guy in Pittsburgh, November 3 Zulu November, who builds them down in his basement. He's been building stuff since he was in high school, and they're wonderful keys. I think they're as good a quality as the Italians.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
and I've seen his keys too, and yeah, they are very good. I'm kind of a Bengali fanboy, so I kind of tend to stick with the things I purchased in the past and the brands. So I have a couple Bengalis.
And I think going back to the key thing, you and I are the same deal about the cooties. My buddy Neil, November 4 Hotel Alpha, Fox, rest his soul, was a CW operator on diesel sub in the Navy. And back then, you start with the straight key, and then you had to take a test before the old chief radio man would let you go to a bug. And a bug was the state of the art back then.
Yeah.
And I've said that, and I really sort of like you tick people off. I think it's cool. I've got a really nice blue racer antique key, but never use it. And I think the brain works better with paddles. So, okay, Tim, November 9, Papa Uniform Zilla says, I use the Electronics USA single lever paddle for portable. It's indestructible. And then,
if somebody has a link to that, maybe put that in the chat here. And
yeah,
I'd like to check those out.
Okay, I'll do that. It's my job. Okay, and the other key, and I got these from my buddy in the Ukraine, Yuri, a uniform Romeo Klein Sierra Delta X-ray. Yuri, my God, the guy is making keys while they're getting bombed the hell out of over there. He's having a supply chain issue, but his keys. We did a fundraiser for him at our Hamfest last year. They do that again. $129 for a key.
Yeah.
Has to ship them out through Poland to get them around the Ruskies. So I wanted to know if you could put the first 4 slides back up again.
So how about this? How about if I could do that? Let me
Or
just
you could send me, what I'm asking now, you could send me a PDF,
yeah,
not your,
I was thinking about that too. It's like anybody who wants a PDF, I'd be happy to send them a PDF.
okay. And then Tom, November 9, Papa Lima Bravo wants to know what bands and frequencies do you like to operate on? I'll get that link for Electronics USA up here.
Yeah. Pretty much all the HF bands now. I'm especially when I do POTA, at home, I kind of tend to do 20, 30, and 40. I like 30 meters a lot. I'm a 30 meters guy. It has some good DX. You can work DX on it, and like from here where I am in Michigan, it's often open to Europe almost every evening nowadays. And of course, 20 meters has been open a lot, and 40 meters is good old reliable, right?
So what was that at the picnic table you were at there in Ann Arbor, I guess? What was the setup? What were the rig and the antenna and all that stuff you were running
Okay.
there?
Well, let me show the picture again then.
Okay, I'll put the link for Electronics USA. They got all kinds of products, but these keys are just great backpacking keys. You can throw them up against a granite mountain and they'll just bounce off.
Yeah. Now let me figure out how to go backwards here. Oop. So this we have a lot of great state parks here in Michigan, and this is actually the set like it says here, the Seven Lakes State Park. It's a little bit farther away from Ann Arbor than the parks I usually operate at because we stopped here on the way home from somewhere, my wife and I. And what I got here, let me get rid of this. What I got here is well, I think this is actually the X6100. Yeah, today I was using the Xiegu X6100. I just sold this though because I also have a KX3 which I like a lot better. My usual setup consists of a KX3, the Bioenno battery. That's the blue battery there. On my right hand, that's the Kent TP1 paddle. And the antenna I use is a 66-foot doublet. And actually, it's a doublet antenna that I feed with twisted pair. You see the twisted pair coming off the front of the picnic table there. And I operate the 66-foot doublet in an inverted V operation, and it's supported by one of those spider beam masts. They have a 10-meter spider beam mast. And that works great. This whole antenna works great, and I connect it right to the radio without a balun. I tried to figure out if a balun was worth it or not, and you get mixed opinions on that. So I just connect the twisted pair right to the antenna tuners, and both the Xiegu and the KX3 tune it up just fine on all the HF bands. The KX3 does actually a little bit better job than the Xiegu. I think it has to do with the algorithm. The Xiegu, it seems to me, is how should I say it? It's less picky, so it gets to 1.5 to 1, says, okay, that's good enough. Whereas the KX3 algorithm will actually try to find the lowest SWR it can reach. But that's my setup. That's what I use. And I'm logging on my phone there with HamRS.
Well, with hammers, how about do you prefer a speaker versus headphones when you're out in the park?
Actually, I prefer neither. But if I do, no, really, the one speaker. So I did have a speaker, and it's actually in my box there somewhere. But one of the problems I had with that speaker was it was susceptible to RFI on 20 meters. Whenever I transmit on 20 meters, it would make it a god awful noise. Yeah, but yeah, if I can do without either, then fine. Otherwise, I started using like little earbuds.
Okay. And how do you the spider beam or spider pole? How do you support it out there? You do a stake or you?
Well, this actually is kind of amusing. So when I first got it, I said, "Well, geez, how am I going to support it?" And you watch those YouTube videos, and you see, somebody using different stakes and all that. Well, I had 3 wooden stakes that I'd used for my backyard to grade the backyard. And I said to myself, well, how about if I put those, I had 3 of them. Well, how about if I put them 120 degrees apart and put the base of the pole in the middle of them? And then I had a strap that I put around it to hold everything together. And that's worked amazingly well. Even in moderate, not monsoon conditions, but moderately windy conditions, those 3 stakes hold that pole very, very nicely. So that's worked really, really great for me. Just
Okay,
3 wooden
great.
stakes. You can go to any garden store or hardware store. That I bought them at my local hardware store.
And then you run that as an inverted V, not an in-fed or a dipole.
Right, right.
Great. So more questions. I have a bunch of questions for Dan, but I'd rather y'all ask. Go ahead, Rich. Unmute,
Dan,
let it
thank
rip.
you very much. This is a great presentation. I
Oh,
have 2 things. 2 things. First of all, Ed, the accordion guy, I forget his call, but his goal right now is to do 1 QSO at least per day, which if anyone is timid about getting on the air, it seems to me to be a pretty good goal. All you got to do is 1 QSO per day and you're done. And if you feel like doing more, all the better. And the last item is a suggestion from the LICW. If you record your sending and about a week or 2 later, you play that back, and if you can copy it, doing well. And if
yeah,
you can't, it'll make you feel better. That's it.
yeah. And there's another program if that's your thing. And I was talking about my CW technician friend. That's one of his big things too. There's a program called CW Fist Check or PC Fist Check, and that'll do that for you too, right off the bat. So there's some programs that'll let you do that. But you're talking about 1 QSO a day. I set a goal for 3 QSOs a day. I set this back, I don't know, 15 years ago, and I've averaged over 3 contacts per day, and that's not even counting all these POTIC contacts and contest contacts. That's actual contact. And of course, I'm lucky because I have the time to do that. Not everybody has the time to do that, but yeah, setting a goal of one per day, and then again, once you get some confidence built up, say, oh, okay, I'll go for 2 a day. And I'll say this too, so I'm on 30 and 40 meters a lot, and I do pretty well over the whole eastern half of the U.S. If any of you ever hear me on the air, please give me a call. Please give me a call. I'm happy to operate at any speed you want, and I'll talk to you for as long as you can stand me.
So when you're saying you're talking about a rag chew, you're not just signal report, slam bam, thank you, ma'am, sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
if that's all you want to do, I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
And like that's what you do with POTA, right? Is basically you do that. So I like to personalize the POTA contacts a little bit because when you type in somebody's call sign into HAMRS, they do a lookup somewhere and they'll tell you what the person's name is. So I'll say, thank you, Joe. You're 599 Michigan, and then so I like to personalize it a little bit that way, but yeah, whatever you want.
One of the things, I'm going to give you my neuroticism here. In my profession, I'm a healthcare professional. I'm not a surgeon, so it doesn't matter that much, but we were taught never to make errors, and we were slammed. And I have, if I make an error, I just sort of freak out like, oh God,
Yeah.
my brain's dead. I got Alzheimer's. I should give the radios away. What do you think about getting on people, not getting perfect copy the first time or screwing up and making errors?
You know what? So I worked a guy yesterday who was making all kinds of errors, spelling errors, and then I setting I instead of S, and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay, who cares? Like if I stopped to think about it, I figured out what he was trying to send, and we were happy about that. there's another guy I work sometimes. I haven't worked him for a while. He used to say to me, he says, Dan, why don't we crank it up? And if we start making mistakes, like who cares? And I said, hey, I'm up for that, Bob. And so that's exactly what we do. And we crank it up as fast as we could send. And we made lots of mistakes, but both of us understood that, right? And so, we're amateurs, right? So, and it's not like we're sending mission critical messages back and forth. So you make some mistakes, you make some mistakes.
Yeah, that's good. I think for all of us, just get on the air and do it. And it's so hard that it's sort of like overcoming that first QSO or asking that first girl for a date or a kiss. Is that
Yeah.
what I call it?
Yeah.
After that, man, you're I'm not going to say where you're in Fat City, but so you just send CQ or do you answer CQs or how do you do it?
Both. In fact, that's one of the nice things about these band scopes, right? Is that if you're calling CQ on a frequency and you're not getting much response, you can look at who's within whatever your band scope is set to. I set mine to plus or minus 10 kilohertz because I'm operating CW, and if I can now sort of guess with some pretty good accuracy who's sending CQ in that band scope. And I just QSY there, and sure enough, that person's sending CQ. I'll come back to it, and then we'll have a contact. To me, that's like the best thing about a band scope.
Okay, other questions? I can keep going. We're going to go to the top of the hour one way or not. So I know y'all have quite we got an icon here. So and he's doing this for free. So
let's get too excited about that.
We've got some stuff in the chat. You did the 1CW question with Vince. He lowered his standards and did that with me, so mine's on there too.
Oh, well, there you go. And you're as much an icon as I am then.
I don't know, man. I'm a member of CW Ops. I like to say I am the worst member of CW Ops here. I had Phil. I don't know if you Phil out in Colorado is a retired trauma surgeon. He just hammered away at me and got me on. But the thing, you've got one of the places. Slow speed test is a good way. MST.
Right.
My beef with CWTs, and these guys taught me to do it back then, was sit there, have N1MM going, have the band scope, and just do it all automated. And those guys are running like upper 30s, almost 40 words a minute now. So do you do the CWTs or what do you think?
Nah, to me, again, that's kind of to each his own, right? That's just not let's put it that way. But I will get on this slow speed test once in a while, just to work some slower speed people and encourage them a little bit. In fact, the other day it popped up on 20 meters. I guess maybe it was yesterday even. And what I did was I heard people calling CQ, but what I did was I tried to look for the newcomers, right? So if I heard somebody calling CQ, I typed their call to QRZ.com, and if they had like 50,000 lookups, I said, oh, that's an experienced person. He doesn't need my contact. I tried to look for people that had, like 2,000 lookups or something. Said, well, okay, I'll respond to that person because he's trying to learn how to run a frequency.
Hey, Dan, can you remove screen sharing, please?
Oh, sorry about that. Somebody wanted to see that.
Oh,
but I'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. So I don't know if you saw it in the chat. In October, the USA Radio Orienteering Championships are going to be in Michigan. Our speaker next week is Charles, a local guy here, who does radio orienteering, backwoods orienteering. And I did the intro class with him and his wife, Nadia, who has won international championships. And it's really pretty cool. 80 meters with just a little wand walking through the woods and stuff. But Charles will be here next week. Yeah, I think there's sort of, I got a couple of buddies, my buddy Dale, 40 words a minute head copy. And but he remembers being on his dad's knee when he was 5, and his dad actually flew for the RAF in World War II. And I keep saying, well, Dale, you had an advantage. That's a critical period for learning languages. But a lot of us are older, or, I was playing with ham radio when I was 13. Now I'm 73. Been a few decades about I hate to say it. If somebody calls me geriatric, I get really pissed. Or you go in the grocery store, how are you doing, young man? It's like, F you, don't call me that. Sorry, I'm letting it rip today. But what do you think about older learners and picking up CW?
I mean, I hate to say this because I did learn it myself when I was younger, and
Okay.
and I was, I think I'm one of those guys that like had it easy for learning. So it's hard for me to give good advice when people are having trouble. Like one of the things you asked me to talk about was head copy, and and as noticed, I kind of blew over that. Well, I'll tell you a story about that. So how I just learned how to do it. So back then when I was doing that 15 words a minute field day, we were writing it down. And I wrote it down. I was copy on paper, I don't know, 6 or 8 months after that. I read an article in QST that, oh, you should learn how to head copy if you want to go faster. Well, which all, of course, made sense. So what did I do? Well, I put down the pen and paper and I copied in my head every time after that. So it's like, I didn't use any kind of aids or whatever. I just was on the air and making contacts. One thing I might say about that is, if you could find somebody to practice with, then you could do that, right? You could say, okay, Joe, let's practice our head copy tonight and have a contact at whatever speed you're comfortable with, and just do head copy. Say, we're not going to write down anything. And then after a few sessions of that, maybe you'll start getting it better, But
Well,
there's
excellent.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say the Code Buddy program has been around since the early days of Nancy Cott, God rest her soul, and Fiss.
Right.
And to me, it's really good. You got somebody, and they're not going to cream you for making errors or whatever, and you work and build your speed up, and that's really a great way to go. Rather than, some folks put down different things, and there are good things like CW Hotline. I think that was it, and V-Band, Victor Band. They're all internet-based things, but getting on the air, is a great thing. But getting a Code Buddy, LICW has, I think, Sundays set up, and CW Academy, Rob runs one called Giving Back.
Right.
I did that for a while, and I don't. And so it sounds like that in a way you're the ultimate Code Buddy, Dan. You're everybody's dream to work.
Well, I don't know about that, but like I say, I do pretty well to everywhere east of the Mississippi, and somebody wants to set up a schedule with me, just email me. I'm on almost every evening.
Are you running QRP or 100 watts or what?
And I have a 7610 and I run 90 watts. And
okay.
But I mean, now especially the bands are good. I do pretty well. Simple setup.
I'm going to put you in Ham Alert. If y'all don't know about that app, it's a really nice cell phone app. You put in a call sign that you want to follow, and you put in like Kilo Bravo 6 November uniform with CW, and I guess it picks it up off reverse beacon, but it'll pop up as an alert on my phone. You go, hey, Dan's on the air. Here's his frequency and stuff. It's a freebie. You use that one, Dan? Ham Alert.
I started playing around with it, but a friend of mine does, and he's got me in his list, and so he's always listening to me.
That was interesting. I used that for 13 Days of Christmas or whatever days there are, and I put all the call stations in on CW. Put each one in individually, and when I heard them, I went over there, I worked them, then I removed them. And I got everybody, including the bonus.
Oh, that's an excellent way to use it. The other
And
one is
now-
that 13 colonies.
Yeah.
In the
Maybe
center.
that was it. 13 colonies is what I did.
Yeah, oh, that's actually a great idea.
Yeah, I did that too, Barry. 13 colonies. The GB station was the hard one, the one in Great Britain. The France
Yeah.
station was just
Yeah,
booming in.
that was the only one I couldn't find.
Yeah.
Guy
So-
just didn't show up.
But you could
So,
put, Dan's call in or your buddy's
Yeah.
call in. Well, Rick, my buddy Rick, KB6 VMA, is he doing okay? And you guys operate together?
So,
Dan?
Say again?
Yeah, my buddy Rick up there, is he doing
Oh,
okay? And you guys,
K8BMA.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
guys
well,
still
yeah, Rick.
operate?
Rick, oh yeah, Rick and I. In fact, he's one of my POTA buddies. We go out and do POTA together.
Okay. And then, I lived up in Pontiac for a while. Worked at Pontiac State Hospital way back in the day. That's my history. But we used to go up to the UP fly fishing, where Hemingway used to fly fish, and off where the Edmund Fitzgerald went down. You go up to the UP, and it's just wonderful up there.
Yeah, I haven't been there for a while, but I used to bicycle a lot, and I did a bicycle tour around the eastern tip of the UP, and that was a nice trip.
Oh God, I bet it was.
But
And
yeah,
lighthouses.
we have a lot of great parks here, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's really a great place to do POTA.
Yeah, everybody's got the idea that Michigan is Detroit, but that's just one
Oh
section.
no,
You got
no.
Ann Arbor. We used to go to the old Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival, which was
Yeah.
a hoot back in the day. And you got, the nice thing about Michigan, you can say, here's the state of Michigan, here's the thumb, here's the top, here's the UP, right? We used to go up a lot of national forest land. We would
Yeah.
do cross country ski and
Yeah.
winter backpacking. This was before radio, and I wish I had one now. So Michigan's just a beautiful state, and
You can't beat it in the summertime.
no, except you get those deer flies in the UP.
Yeah, those are bad.
Okay, we're up at the top of the hour. What I'm going to do, if I can figure out how to do it, is I'll stop the recording. But if you can